You were a big part of the beginning of the Toland movement. I mean, from big wave surfing, I mean, it totally took it to a next level. How did that happen?
We got bored going straight or riding big waves. And at the time, we were starting to windsurf a lot. And we were getting all this really good equipment from Neil Pride. Really good equipment. And we had this guy from Maui and from Kailua with a pink sail, Robbie Nash. Mm-hmm. Robbie Nash was God for windsurfing. I mean, if Robbie showed up windsurfing, you went to the beach and you studied. We started really getting into windsurfing after big wave riding, and why paddle when you could fly? It's like a motorcycle on water. So we were out at backyards, and we were able to go out to the first reef, second reef, third reef, and ride all the way through sunset on our little windboards. And that really taught us to break away, to create something new. But along the way, we knew the lineups out there. I mean, we knew how to get away from 20, 30-foot waves, go downwind, around, jump over, do a loop, land, go back out. But right when we got to the third reef, we'd look back and see the lineup and turn and slip and jive and ride again all day long. We broke a lot of equipment. Mandatory to have fins on, because if you broke down a mile and a half out and lose your rig, you just put your fins on. It was remarkable. Meanwhile, on Maui, it was on. Big winds in Maui because of the mountains. But backyards is very special. There's very few people there. We were the yardbirds. And we did that for many, many years. And at that point, we started snowboarding. And snowboarding was just about going up the chairlift in the powder, and floating through the powder, and going through the trees, and it was brand new, and it was like surfing again. But you're in foot straps, and you've got this tiny little board, and you can get in big trouble snowboarding. Mm. You're really close to God when you go to the mountains, Mother Nature, because you really have to pay attention. Mm. Everything can go bad real quick. That being said, we started doing a lot of heliboarding up in Canada. And of course, it was Jerry Lopez and myself and Laird and Tom Flager. And we had Sparky of Rainbow Sands. We had such a great time. We were going out into these mountains that were just, whoa. And then one day we're down at the bottom of the hill, and we looked at this tiny little snowboard and looked at this mountain, and the bell went off. Meanwhile, we went back home, and we decided to put the concept together of the chairlift to a Zodiac. And Buzzy Kerbox had the Zodiac. Laird had the balls, and I had the lineups. Mm. So we started at backyards, and we started going out there on a rope. We started mastering the concept, the pendulum. Boat goes left, you go right, and so forth. And twang! Toe surfing was born. And people liked it.
Do you remember the exact day when it all just came together?
It's in 92. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we had to put surfing, windsurfing, and snowboarding together to make the sport of kings. Of course, foot straps from windsurfing. Of course, the big wave experience, riding big waves. And then, of course, the lineups with windsurfing. But there was a lot more to happen. The mistakes, the ride after the ride, the losing the boat. You know, we had to be experienced watermen, which we were, three of us, three amigos. When we finally started riding giant waves, it took off like a freight train. And those little pictures that you used to draw in the classroom with the big wave and the little ant-man, you know, instead of paying attention to your teacher, you're just dreaming about that. That became true.
Wow.
Then it really took a next level when we went and saw Brewer, and Brewer said, "Your boards are too big, come and see me." Mm. So we went to see Brewer, me and Laird, and it was a really special day. He said, "Come back in an hour and bring me a sandwich, coffee." So we left, and came back in an hour and opened the door, and he had created this thing out of his mind
In an hour.
that no one else ever thought about. But he was a master. He was a genius. And there it was. And we called her Betsy. I still have Betsy. And at that time, she was 7'2", 16 inches wide, an inch and 3/4 thick. And we're like, are you kidding me? Well, we got it glassed and strapped it up, and that was the board. We took it everywhere. The only problem
There's
is
one board.
one board.
One board, okay.
And the only problem is we had to take turns on the board, and Laird never fell off. So we weren't getting very many turns. So that was when we each decided to get our own tow boards, which is really important because, you know, he breaks down or gets tired, then you jump on yours. Meanwhile, the windsurfers on Maui were very extreme with tricks. And there was a crew over there, Dave Kalama and Mike Walls and Brett Lickle and Mark Angulo and Victor Lopez and Jerry Lopez and on and on and on. Peter Cabrina, and these guys were master doing all these tricks. And so we started going back and forth with concept, and that's when we invented the strap crew. Rush Randall was a very huge inspiration in that because he was in a mind game all by himself. He was the king of air. So we put together this group, and we were interchanging concept, and the world was going berserk because everyone wanted to do it, but they didn't have the skills. We formed Strap, and we were just blowing it up. And all of a sudden, overnight, everyone became a tow surfer. Fortunately, Jerry calls us up one day and goes, I'm sure you heard this, man, you got something over here, you guys like come over here and check them out, bro. Gaboons. We're like, oh, cool. So we flew to Maui, and Larry and me broke through the sugarcane fields for hours and got stuck in the mud and went left and right, and then finally we got to this cliff, and we cut a little hole through the heavy brush, and we walked out on the cliff, and we just went, oh my God. PI was 15, 20, 30 feet, top to bottom, spitting both ways, and there was no one there.
This is the first day it was surfed?
It's the first time it was ever tow surfed.
Towed in.
Apparently it had been surfed before, but not very few people really took it to the next level because the consequences there are you're on the rocks in 5 seconds. So,
are you still on the Zodiac, or you're now in something else?
No, we acquired a couple jet skis from Waterworld, the movie Waterworld.
Oh, okay.
And Brian Kealana and them acquired a few too. And those things really worked well. We call them the Turtles. Brian and them were mastering rescue techniques for the lifeguard department, and the Strap crew was mastering tow surfing techniques at Piahi. And so we were playing and they were working. But we would interact to share them our rescue concepts and their concepts too, which we had to fight for the jet ski because they were not liked, and of course in the city and county they denied us to use them. But we were trying to convince them that what took us 30 minutes would take us 30 seconds. These things save lives. As that evolved, the ski came into process, Jaws became full-blown, and the rest is history. But I will never forget the first times that Laird and I went there, and you asked me what was probably the peak of my life. Well, that was the peak of my life, coming around the corner and seeing 100 to 200 foot spray going in the face of the wave, up the back of waves, and just going, oh my God.
So from the early conception to on the Zodiac to that day, how long was that? What time frame?
About a year and a half.
Wow, a year and a half.
And it was all brand new. Strap crew was just starting to hook up tow boards, make tow boards to come and tow Piahi, but they were still adamant at windsurfing, and Laren and I bebopped over to Maui and launched our ski out of the back of a pickup truck. And I had an 8.6 Jerry Lopez. There it is right there, the tail of it. And it was a big day. And, you know, Laird and I were kids at the time, and we still are. You go. No, you go. No, you go. Okay. So I went first.
Oh, okay. So you caught the first wave.
Well, I caught the first wave, but I wasn't on a towboard. I was on a surfboard, an 8.6 Lopez.
Oh.
And Laird is always playing games like he is. I rode about 8 or 10 waves, and he was just ecstatic. And I looked up on the cliff, and there was 5 or 6 heads, and it was the beginning of the strap crew because they found our little hookup. And then it was Laird's turn, and I'll never forget, he pulls this thing out of the bag, and it was a 610 Lopez, but he had put straps in it.
So you were surfing without straps. You hadn't strapped
And he
it.
had this board with this Lopez surfboard, but he
didn't tell
straps
you.
in it.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, well.
Are you going to share?
When I towed him onto the waves, he was going 2-3 times faster than I was.
Wow.
He was flying up in the air and jumping and landing. And I will say that having spent the years before windsurfing with him and the beginning tow surfing, and then stepping up to 15, 18, 20, 30, 60, 80, 100-foot waves, and being there, pre-internet, pre-social media, just being there and being in places in God's hands with him, there will never, ever, ever be a surfer as big and powerful as him.
Wow.
And I'll say that straight. When you see him take off on a 50, 80-foot wave, he is so in tune with his training process, his mental and physical capabilities, and the speed and the boards he's riding with Brewers and Lopez's, and how he'll fly by you without hardly making a mistake. I witnessed it. I was the one to call the jaws, because what's behind him, he doesn't know. That thing's going to turn
So you
around.
named Jaws.
It's in one of our videos, yeah. It's like
Wow.
the thing behind you, you don't even want to know it was going to kill you. But you never look back at PI, you're always looking forward. Now what's happening, we kind of drew a line and stepped over that line, as your father did, as Peter Cole did, as Clark Abbey did. There's a time where you draw the line and step over and go, no more of this, let's go do this. Whether it's 1 wave, 2 waves, or small waves, it's the same thing. Whether you're boogie boarding, or whether you're swimming or body surfing waves, it's the same thing. I just think it's a cycle, and then you get to a point in life where, like Wayne Lynch told me the other day, oh, I don't surf anymore, I just mat surf. I go, far out. You know, it's like Flippy Hoffman, the same thing. He couldn't stand up, so he got a jet ski. It's like James Jones. He surfs Kaiser Bowls. You know, it's just, you get to that point. And I see a lot of big waves come to that point, as Peter, as Bradshaw, as it doesn't interest you anymore. Now my son Tiger, it interests him, and I'm now sitting back and watching him vicariously surf. And moms are doing the same thing with their kids, and it's the next extension. It's what you're doing for Buzzy. This is an extension of whether he wanted you to do it or not. The soul of surfing.
So after this epic day and Toan was born, did you go back to paddling right away, or was that became your fire?
It was my fire for 25 years. It's all we did. I traveled to Maui with no one on the airplane. I had all my equipment there. I lived on Maui. My son's mom was really cool with me. He came with me a lot. It was my life. We had all our equipment there, so I was just going back and forth a lot. I was surfing in between, but back then the surf was always big, so like a get home and Laird would be on the telephone pole and go, oh, it's going to get big. And I'd go to Peter Cole and he says, okay, this date, these are going to be big. And so we'd fly over. We had no internet. And that was the beauty about surfing back then, is you had to have scene assessment. You had to have balls to go out there. You had to be like Peter and Buzzy, where you heard it and you knew to go to Sunset, or you knew to go to Right Now, or you had to learn scene assessments. Mm-hmm. You weren't just staring at a phone.
Yeah.
And it's lost.
Mm-hmm.
We'll bring all that back, because kids come in here and they see surfer magazines and they've never seen a surfer magazine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're glued to them.
Mm-hmm.
They're glued. It's amazing what the kids do in here. We're going to do a lot more of this more. What really went through the roof, though, is overnight everyone started tow surfing, and we'd go out to PI after 15 years of no one being there, and there'd be 100 skis. There would be boats selling hamburgers in the channel. There would be guys going uncounterclockwise and counter. There was no communication. Everything goes in a circle. Everything has to be safe, and it was out of control. And the strap crew, we lost control of the whole thing. Not as Makaha, or Makaha has control, but we did a video, and it took us a while, but the name of the video was All Aboard the Crazy Train. And that was when we all pulled back and went into our next chapter. But if you remember, there was one more thing, the millennium, where we went to Tahiti. And we were there for that. Mm-hmm. And Laird was going through some really growing times in his life, super focused, and we ended up being at the right place at the right time. And after that wave, the sport of tow surfing exploded, and people went like, oh my God, this cannot be true. But we'd already been through 15 years at PI, which we didn't really document, but that was documented. And it went on CNN, it went around the world in 24 hours, and the whole world blew up. And everyone wanted to be a tow surfer, which was great, but you got to play by the rules. You have to be a waterman, you have to be able to swim for miles, you have to know how to surf big waves, small waves, windsurf, lineup, but there was none of that going on. You could just go buy a jet ski and just kind of be out there. And the wipeouts, the carnage.
You know, I don't know, I'm thinking the Beatles, but you know, they had that moment of 6 years where they got together, created this revolutionary sound and changed the world, and then they went into their individual quiet space. Did that happen for you guys?
Overnight. It got to a point where I kept going back to try to work there, but it was so crowded, and we were the kings over here, and people were playing by the rules here. And so I just ended up staying here because I have family and friends, where I would go to Maui and I would just nickname it Bucks for Lolos. And so I stayed more over here, and then Laird sold the property, and then it just kind of faded away. Everybody, Kalama went and did his thing, Rush did his thing, Balsies. We kind of ventured back into windsurfing and surfing. It was more simple. What was once we were the only jet ski at the gas station, now you go to Maui or you go Oahu, there's jet skis at every gas station. When the surf comes up, you go to the harbor, there's 50, 60 trailers and 50, 60 skis.
How do you feel about that? Do you think you had a part in that explosion? Do you feel resentment that happened to you guys, that something was taken away from you? How do you feel about that explosion of the towing movement?
You know, that's a good question. You know, sometimes I just tell myself I apologize for what we created. But then I turn around and go, it's been so good for safety, it's been so good for brag, it's been so good for people, it's made so many people happy, that I'm kind of proud to be the king of tow surfing. And so are my friends. And so I just wave at people. I'm very quiet. I've been training. I got Damon that I play with. I got other people that I play with. And yes, it trips me out, but what's really cool is I'm humble. I just wave at everybody. And I wave, and they kind of respect me for that, when I was working on Maui with Kai Lenny, I used to go through the lineup and say hi to people. And by the way, you guys have been falling off now for the last 5 or 6 hours. And 60 boards are on the rocks. The rope's coming out at 2 o'clock. And if you want to stay here, you can. But if not, we're going to start yanking. The photographers loved us, but we give to them. Now you have to give to us. And so they were really cool about that. But I stopped working for Kai. Now I'm working for myself to share with others. And also, I heard about my son riding big waves, but I was always on Maui. And now I'm here watching him, and it's just amazing to see him doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I follow his Instagram and his pictures. He's like carrying on. Does he tow in too, or is he just a paddle in big wave surfer?
He's solid on paddling. He's very adequate at just paddling.
That's what he wants to do.
He just purchased a ski from my godson, Jamie O'Brien, and he went home and did it all up and cleaned it all up and repainted it and redid it. Now he's on, let's go, Dad. So I'm working with a few people right now to get them to a level of driving. Now it's still them on the rope. So get them to a level where Damon and Jamie Sterling and Tiger, that I can get off the ski. And by the way, Momo's really good at tow surfing. I took her a while back. Where I can get in the water on the rope and I can get yanked and know that someone's going to come and find me. Good. So I'm just trying to teach everybody that so that I can start having fun again.